way up so you could hear me. I have to be a little quiet because I have a sleeping child in the back seat. And that's not what I anticipated for this time of day. So I have the time to make this happen, and I am going to do my best to get as much shared as possible. If you don't know, Saturday is usually for momming, so I rarely go live or show up online on Saturdays unless it's posting something for family stuff. But today is a little different because I have been reflecting. In fact, I just got off the phone with somebody who had me thinking about everything that happened 5 years ago, right now, which is when I was in the middle of my crowdfunding campaign. So, if we've never met before, hi, I'm Michaela, and I'm the host of the Children's Book Marketing Podcast. I also am a children's book author. And because I've been in this world for the last 5 years, all of the things are flooding back to me that helped get this thing started to begin with. And so, I have the great pleasure today of not having had drum lessons the way I thought we were going to have drum lessons, because normally what happens is on Saturdays we have drum lessons and then soccer. But apparently our drum instructor got sick and I didn't check the app where he communicated this about 3 hours ago. So we drove all the way to drum lessons, which is not close, and we didn't even actually have to be there. So I'm making the best of this, right? Thinking, okay, I'm going to stop at the grocery store, pick up what I need. And the little guy falls asleep in the back seat. I'm like, no, because we're like 5 minutes away from there by the time he falls asleep. And then I'm like, yes, because I can go live and I can do something. Now I'm just sitting here in the truck until he wakes up. And it is hot. Not hot like it's 75, 85 degrees outside, but it's hot like the sun is out. It's a beautiful day and it's winter, but the sun is shining. So whatever the truck says the temperature is what it is. And here's the deal. I don't know when he's going to wake up, so I'm going to share as much as I possibly can with the time that I have. So here's what happened. 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to write a children's book. I found an illustrator, and the illustrator and I, around Thanksgiving, had just about gone through sketches. And a few people in the community of children's book authors that I was circulating in had already done Kickstarter campaigns. So I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Let me look into that. This is at a time when Clubhouse is kind of a big deal. And this is at a time where we're all on lockdown because it's COVID and nobody can go anywhere. And a lot of activity that I was seeing from crowdfunding campaigns was helping people become more widely known for the work that they were doing for the books that they were starting to launch. I'm like, oh, let me check that out. Let me see how that's going to be. So it's a week before Thanksgiving. I'm talking to my illustrator. I'm like, hey, Erica, I think we should do a crowdfunding campaign. And she's like, yeah, that sounds good. We could do that. You need a couple of months to prepare, though. And I was like, oh, no, we don't have that kind of time. So the story from there goes to her shock and awe that we're going to launch a crowdfunding campaign in 0 months. We're actually going to do this the next month. So I'm like, okay, Erica, this is what we have. This is what we can do with it, even though we don't have a book. Now, if you're not familiar with crowdfunding, hey, Latrice, how's it going? If you're not familiar with how crowdfunding works, nobody expects you to have a finished product if you let them know that you don't have a finished product. However, if you communicate that something is done and you just need the support to finalize it, then that's what people expect. But I was very clear on what we needed to do in order to finish the publishing and what we needed to do even to complete illustration. So leading with the crowdfunding campaign was an activity in complete transparency. So let's just start with that. If we're going to go with anything in the story that I can recount from memory, being able to tell people honestly where you are is why they choose to support you. Hello. Now, if they choose to support you, It's because you've let them know, thank you very much. You've let them know that you have something coming that you're working on, that's brewing, and that you need their support in trying to complete. There is no reason to act like you have things more done than you do, because that amount of funding that you're going to request needs to incorporate what you have left of what you are setting out to do to begin with. So, I tell Erica this on the Thursday before Thanksgiving, and she's just like, OMG. Erica's my illustrator, so she's thinking about how much work she has to do. But I'm helping her identify how much work, how much work she's already done. And by having the sketches and having the cover and having some of the elements, she had enough for us to run with to make it even appealing to start shaping the story of why we needed support to launch this book. So, Thanksgiving comes and goes. I'm convinced that I'm gonna do this thing. Hello. And when we got through Thanksgiving, we took everything that we had and I started to build out a content plan for it. Now, when you do a crowdfunding campaign, you do it for a couple different reasons. One of the reasons that a lot of people do a crowdfunding campaign is because they don't have any money to make something happen. That's the most obvious reason to do a crowdfunding campaign, because you want the support financially to do the thing that you're putting your effort into. But that's not the only reason why. Another reason is because you might want visibility. So by that I mean, if you're not doing something that people can see, and you just at the end of it say, ta-da, I have the thing, it's ready, and I want you to take action to purchase it or to support me, you haven't taken people along with you on the journey. And so it seems like a surprise, and they're not really invested in whether or not it does well. But when you have a crowdfunding campaign in place to help build your visibility, you have a built-in set of cheerleaders. And those people who are rooting for you are your initial supporters. So shout out to Carmela. Thanks for joining today. Shout out to Miss Latrice and Kelly Rodriguez. What's up, y'all? Thanks for joining me, because I had to get this out here. This is the one thing among all of the things that I have shared on the podcast, that I have shared on lives in any platform. This is the one thing that I haven't gone into a ton of detail about. And the reason is because it feels to me like there's so much to say. And if I break it down, I could take this whole concept of crowdfunding and all of the pieces that are involved with the puzzle. I could take weeks. I could go on and on. It's as intriguing to me, and it's something that I am as passionate about as marketing itself. And if you have spent any length of time with me, you know that I have been in marketing now for 25 years, mostly corporate. And for the last 5 years that I've been in the children's book zone of marketing, there are certain things that just completely light me up. And crowdfunding is one of those things. So I haven't gone into a ton of detail about it. I have not created a course around this, although I've been asked to. I have done some coaching to help people understand the nuances of it, but I do not have a formal place where I talk about this. And I think part of the reason why, just to be all the way honest, is because I don't plan on doing it a second time. Now it might sound crazy, right? You say, okay, you did the crowdfunding campaign, it worked, it funded, you achieved the goal. Why wouldn't you do it again? Well, here's the reason why I wouldn't do it again. It was effective, no doubt about that. However, achieving the goal means that my business as a children's book author started in exactly the position that I needed for it to, in order for it to be profitable. So if I were to do another crowdfunding campaign, whether it's for a different topic or for an extension of the children's book that I've already wrote, adding new things into the brand or into building out a series, I have the funds to make it happen. I don't have a lot of the blind spots to make it happen. And when it comes to Okay, had to come back and my mistake, y'all. The phone overheated. So if you can still hear me and see me, put something in the chat to let me know so that I'm just not out here talking to myself. I did not realize that it was this warm. I don't know what the temperature is right now, but I had to step out the truck because when the phone overheats, there's nothing I can do. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, put something in the chat to let me know that you can. And just let me know that I'm back. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. It's back on. Okay, so we were talking about all of the reasons why I wouldn't necessarily do it again. It's not that it's a bad thing, it's that I have what I need to move the business forward. And so when you do that, it was nice to start with other people's money, but I figured out how, using the crowdfunding campaign and all of the things that have inspired me or shaped my perspective over the last couple of years, I figured out how to do it without needing that kind of initiative up front. So I wouldn't do it again, but not because it's so much work and not because it's not effective. I wouldn't do it again because I have what I need to move forward and to release additional elements of my brand. So put a note in the chat if that makes sense, because I'm not one of the people who says crowdfunding is the only way to do it. It's one way to do it. And it's one of several ways to do it. And I found other ways to do it that don't require the same lift as crowdfunding. So launching moving forward doesn't have to incorporate that, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's the first part of that. The other part is that people will do a crowdfunding campaign to increase their visibility. And one of the things that I was doing at the time had nothing to do with children's books. Let me make sure he's still asleep. Okay, he's still asleep. So none of the things that I was doing at the time had to do with children's books. I was then and am still a licensed real estate professional. And at that time in life, I was a mom 3 years in. And instead of actively selling real estate in the production aspect of helping people buy and sell homes, because I had at that time been doing it for like 10 years, I was teaching continuing education classes and I was writing courses about, guess what? Marketing, and teaching them to real estate schools here in the metro Atlanta area. And because it fit my life flow a lot better than being out and working with buyers and sellers, I was also investing in real estate. And one of the investment properties that was an opportunity for me at the time had just completed. So we've got all this going on in the real estate realm. I've been, let's see, at that point, on the other side of a rehab and home improvement stuff, things related to having your child interact with the project that you are doing were the things that were top of mind. That's how my children's book ended up being about what it was about. So up to this point, everything on the socials for me was all about real estate. It was all about the lane that I had carved for myself in real estate. So when I had this idea to create a children's book and it incorporated different elements of what the project entailed for the rehab, it incorporated elements of fixing things and having your kids involved in the mix and not pushing them away or telling them that they don't have this skill or that skill and just letting them in a hands-on way participate and help out. This is part of where that came from for me. So I had to communicate to the people who know me in real life, like me, trust me, all that good stuff. I had to let them know that I was introducing something that I wanted to do beyond the real estate scope. So for me, this was a way of announcing something new. And for a lot of people who are in the space of writing children's books, you either have a full-time job or you have something that you do throughout the day that occupies your time, and that's what you're best known for. It might be that you are a stay-at-home mom. It might be that you are an educator and you, as your 9 to 5, you're teaching and elevating young minds to help them move around the world in more effective ways. It could be that you have a corporate job or that you are in STEM and research is your thing. But whatever the thing is, everybody knows you for that thing. So if you want to let people know there's other dimensions to you, or that there are other things that you have talent in or interest in and you want their support behind it, a crowdfunding campaign is a great way to do that. So I keep looking over to see if Mason is still asleep, and he is. And I cracked the window for him too because he has a coat on. It's warm, but the warmer he stays without overheating, the better this live will be, because we will not have to rush to hurry up and get him out the truck. All right, so that's why people tend to do crowdfunding campaigns. And also, looking back at this, I do know a lot of people who have done more than one crowdfunding campaign successfully. And it, for them, is a way of, oh yeah, you just gonna come in the whole parking space right here, right next to me. Like, there are not a parking lot full of other spaces, but right here, okay, whatever. So there's lots of people who say, I'm going to do a crowdfunding campaign for every book that I launch. And when they do that, where's the sun so it's not blinding you? So when they do that, let me see if I can hide behind the truck and get some shade. When they do that, it becomes their business model. It becomes their launch model. And from one launched book to the next, they have a formula for it. That can work. That can work very, very well. And it can also be something that puts a lot more money in the startup fund for a children's book author, where you might have other things you want to create. So if you have merch in mind and you have apparel that you want to incorporate, or if you want to be in a position to create an online platform or an app that goes with what your children's book is supposed to promote, anything that you might need to fund, you could get the funding for through your crowdfunding campaign if you set your budget up to incorporate it. So my budget was incorporating the cost to complete illustrations, the cost to print, the cost for stationery, which is what I launched the children's book with, and the merchandise that I had at the time was not what it is today. So that's grown over time. But here's the deal. If you have an idea for what else you want to go with your book, know that it's not just about the book. You're building potentially a brand around a book. And if you're planning to do that, that takes money. If you know how, wonderful. You can go from launch to funding, and you have everything you need to get started on the capital side. But if you're not sure how and you need somebody to show you how, that's part of what I do. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, helping people figure out how to build a brand around a children's book. So if you want that kind of insight, you can find it in a couple different ways. So the Children's Book Marketing Podcast is where I talk about how to do that. That podcast came into existence around the same time that I wrote the book, because this is when people started raising their hands saying, hey, Michaela, I know you know all this stuff about marketing. Can you help me? I'm like, sure. And we're in the children's book zone. So I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm at. The other thing that you can do is come into the Children's Book Marketing Lab. Now, that's better for you if you have a book. If it's not already published, but it's close to being in the state that you can get the book printed and make it available for people who want to read it, then it might be worth considering coming into the lab, because that's where I offer more of a group interaction and the community that's needed to help understand how you can really be profitable with this thing. Because never at any point in time was this a hobby for me. And for a lot of people, it might start off that way, but it doesn't have to stay that way if you recognize that you have a deeper purpose and a deeper intention that you want to use to take your book somewhere. So drop a note in the chat if you want details about how to get into the lab, because I want to make sure you know how to get into it. It's in the school community, and so it's not hard to find. So if you want that, put that in the chat. But in the meantime, let's go back to the story of how the whole crowdfunding thing came about, because Mason is still asleep. All right, so I decided why I wanted to do my crowdfunding campaign And here was the other thing that was pressing. It was this time 5 years ago. And you know what's happening right now. This time, it's holiday. Holiday season is really, it's always some kind of noise whenever first it was the blowers, then it's the person who can't figure out how to get out their own car without turning on the alarm. Let me just remember that it is Saturday afternoon and it is a beautiful day and we will not complain, okay? All right, so when you're talking about what happens with where I decided to do this during this time of year, I'm going completely against everything that everybody said. So at the time, the whole thinking was you need 6 months to prepare for a crowdfunding campaign. I was like, we don't have that kind of time. And we don't need that kind of time because as a person whose background is in communication and content and branding, I knew that it did not have to take the extensive time that everybody swore it did. So I was like, no. And it isn't just because I'm defiant and I'm difficult. It's because I could see very clearly all of the pieces that needed to be laid out. And even though I've not created a program around crowdfunding inside of the Children's Book Marketing Lab, I probably need to, so that this is a little bit more obvious and a lot less frightening to everybody who really wants to do it. So everybody said it's holiday. People don't want to spend money on supporting your dream to bring it to life. And that crowdfunding campaign was something that should wait until after the holiday. I was like, absolutely not. Because the way my faith works is to understand what the word says about people's interests and people's preferences. And so if among my spiritual gifts, one of the things that I have is the gift of administration, the gift of helps, and the gift of discernment. There may be some gifts that I don't have as prominently, some things that I know other people have. And one of those things that other people have is that they have the gift of giving. They have a heart to give. And I'm not saying this in a self-serving way. I'm saying this like some people have abundance and they recognize that. And they recognize that they've been blessed and they're in a position to bless other people. And because they recognize where they stand with the things that have been given to them, they know that in order for them to continue receiving God's blessings or to feel as though they are effectively managing the resources that He gives them charge over, they're going to be the ones who are the givers. So I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to do this because people say, oh, it's holiday season and nobody wants to give to that. They want to spend money on gifts. I'm like, this would be essentially a part of giving for a very justified cause, which I had to put in the story of the crowdfunding whole element of why somebody should support. But then I was like, this is when people spend all the money that they have, whether they have it or not. So if they're going to spend it on crap that is going to be opened one morning and forgotten about the next, they could absolutely help me kick off this opportunity to portray the themes and the concepts in this book in a way that's going to be effective. I felt very strongly about that. And I'm not criticizing the mindset that doesn't align with my own, but I do know that that's a hard pass for a lot of people to believe that what they have is valuable enough that somebody's going to support it. And so there's some self-doubt that gets mixed into, should I do it? And there's some self-consciousness that gets mixed into, will people stand behind me because this isn't what I've been doing, but this is what I want to do and this is what I'm doing now. I didn't have any of that. And at the same time, and I just had an interview, dope interview, by the way, with one of my business coaches on YouTube, and her name is Arlen Hamilton, and she and I were talking about how my experience in her community, which is called Your First 5K, has completely shifted the way I approach my coaching business and my children's book marketing podcast and all that. So Arlen and I were talking, and one of the things that we talked about was how back in like 2020, the big buzzword was imposter syndrome. And I remember thinking, for all the people who would come into the clubhouse rooms and they would say, oh, I really want to do this. And you've got like this innocuous kind of perception because everybody's at home and everybody's on lockdown and you can't actually see people in clubhouse at that time. You could just hear the voices. People were afraid to show up on camera, but they were I'd say they were less uncomfortable showing up just in voice only, because on Clubhouse, because you didn't have to have a video, people couldn't really see you. And you didn't have to post content that was visual, so people couldn't see you. So people were coming out of the woodworks expressing how hesitant they had been to do whatever they really wanted to do until now, because now that nobody has to see you and you can do whatever you want to do from home in your pajamas, then it was a little bit more or less frightening. And so people kept talking about this imposter syndrome, and I would get in these clubhouse rooms and I would hear about how people kept talking about it, and I was like, wait, so everybody has this to an extent? And I was like, nah, everybody doesn't have that, because I don't have it. I didn't have it then, partially because, not that I'm arrogant, but I have a confidence that if you're going to talk to me about certain things, I might not be as well versed, but you talk to me about marketing, oh, I'm going to go all day on that, because that's a topic that I'm passionate about. That's a topic that I have a lot of experience in. I don't question my ability there. And there are a lot of things that I've done that justify that I'm supposed to be doing it, whatever lane, whatever industry I choose. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to let that kind of misguided thought derail this intention. That's the best way to put it. So I'm like, okay, ain't no way that I would not do this because I'm afraid. So if you can get past the fear, whether that means you need somebody to encourage you, or you just need to know that it's possible to get it done. And if you have to do it afraid, do it afraid. That's one of the biggest hurdles that people have. I didn't have that hurdle. So moving forward, we decide on a date for the crowdfunding campaign. Let me know if you're still with me on this crowdfunding story, because 5 years ago right now, which is December 20th, we were in the middle of the campaign. The campaign started on December 10th. The campaign ended on December 31st. And the reason I timed it that way is because I wanted to be confident going into the new year that either I had all of what I needed to launch this children's book business and get the books printed and finish illustration and all of that, or I didn't. This was going to be, for me, the line drawn in the sand that said, all right, this worked, go forward, or this didn't work, backtrack and see what else you can do. So I really went all in on this. And in doing so, the 21 days of the campaign fell right in line with my number. My favorite number is 21. Why is that? Because my birthday is on the 21st. And because 2 and 1 are what you add together to get the month that I was born in, 21-day campaign had a nice ring to it for me. Everybody doesn't do a 21-day campaign. Uh-oh, little guy's up. Hi, babe.
Sprouts.
Are you ready to go in Sprouts?
I was ready.
I thought you were still taking a nap. Okay, well, I'll get you out and we can go inside, okay? You have to use the bathroom?
No.
Okay, good. Would you like some water?
No.
Okay, take a sip. All right, so now that the little one is up, I got through about as much of the story as I possibly could to say why we did a crowdfunding campaign and how you do a crowdfunding campaign. Just give it a few minutes, Mace. Take a sip, wake yourself up, get some water, and I'm gonna wrap up what I'm doing. You want to say hi? No? Okay. Well, I'm gonna sit right here. My car overheated. I can't sit in the truck because it shut my phone down. So when we went through the whole, this is how long the campaign is going to be, I decided it's going to be 21 days. Immediately started communicating. Immediately started letting people know what I was doing. And when I say letting people know, I mean everybody I knew. So when you decide you're going to launch a campaign, you're basically setting out on a fundraising endeavor. When you do that, you don't restrict who you're going to ask for funds. You basically tap into any relationships, any circles that you have ever frequented, any of the places that you've established relationships are on the docket for, can I rely on this person or that, or this thing or that. And when I was talking to my mom earlier today, she let me know that some things that I did even 5 years ago in the crowdfunding campaign inspired her to approach differently what she recommends to people who she works with around how they can generate the revenue to do what they want to do with her business and just start it. And she was like, yeah, I took that from your crowdfunding campaign. Like, you kind of just figure out who you can rely on and you ask. And I was like, you're right, I did do that. So at this stage in life, I've been in enough places that I know enough people that I could ask and I could confidently say, I'm going to hear some yeses and I'm going to hear some no's. That's just how it is. If I limited only my ask to the people who I see on a regular basis, the crowdfunding campaign would not have been effective. And so here I am at that point in time. I lived in Atlanta. I still live in Atlanta, but I had been here for 5 years. So there's a network of people that I developed connections with here in Atlanta. They were real estate people. They were people that I formerly worked with in the corporate world. And there were friends of friends and just people that I encountered as I was traversing life and rebuilding in a new city. So there's that. And then you got where I came from. So where I came from, I lived in Indianapolis for 8 years. And that life was a very different life from the life that I moved to Atlanta for. But there were still relationships in place from people that I met living in Indianapolis. So we're connected on Facebook. They get to know about what I'm doing. I'm asking for their support as well. Go back before Indianapolis. I lived in Detroit for 5 years. Because I lived in Detroit and I still maintained relationships with people that I went to church with, people that I volunteered with, people that I went to graduate business school with, which was not in Detroit, it was in East Lansing, but Michigan State is in Michigan. And I had relationships with people from grad school from Michigan, from living in Michigan. I had people who I never let go of and never let go of me. So we continued to support each other. So you got that group of people. Prior to that, lived long term, because I'm from Ohio, lived in Ohio. So we got undergraduate friends and relationships and connections from educators and mentors. And you got high school people, people from elementary school, every stage of life, if you want to be honest, is accessible for a relationship that you had to come into this opportunity that you have asking for support. So put a note in the chat if that makes sense to you, because sometimes people think, oh, you have to know a lot of people and you have to have a certain rapport. It does help for that. But people think, I don't know enough people. And if you look back over your life and you look back over, oh, good, he went back to sleep. You look back over, yeah, look at my sleeping. Yeah, he knocked out. You look back over all the places that you've been and all the people that you met, there is a strong chance that you know enough people to help you fund a campaign. And if you don't know enough people to fund a campaign, inside of the platform that is the one that I use, Kickstarter, people have the ability to find you inside of the platform to determine whether they're going to support you. So you're not just counting on all of the people you may know in real life. You're also counting on all the people who care about what you're doing based on the story that you share inside of the crowdfunding platform that makes it possible for people to find you and extend support your way. So you don't have to ever rely only on who you think you know, but it helps a lot. And by helping a lot, I mean, I was in my phone literally scrolling. I sent DMs on Instagram. I sent text messages through my phone. Happy holidays. This is what's going on. I have a whole script for it, and I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere. I remember also accessing emails and any of the things, because if people are open to emailing you to ask you to buy something and they're in your inbox all the time, you can very much in kind ask them to support what you're doing. So if you get emails from people who you connected to, you gave your information, and like, hey, I've been receiving your emails for however many months. I appreciate what you share. You taught me this or that. I'm doing something now and I would like your support for it. You turn it back on them and you give them an opportunity to support you. Don't underestimate how important it is for people to feel needed. They want to help you move forward if you're doing something positive that they can agree with. So there's that. So that is, in a nutshell, in a 37-minute nutshell, why I encourage you to consider crowdfunding if you have a children's book that you want to launch, but also why I did it. And all the mechanics and all the in-betweens and all the behind-the-scenes stuff, I'm just going to have to put it in the lab because there's so much more to it that's been coming up now that it's been 5 years. And that it's been 5 years and I'm reflecting, and I do a lot of that in general before I move forward into something else. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving any stone unturned that will help you, if you're a children's book author, take what you have in here and get it out there into the world and into the hands of the right readers, because you never know who your book is going to impact, and you never know what impact your book is going to have aside from what you intended for it to have. So many beautiful things have happened since the crowdfunding campaign that have blown my mind. Opportunities, and I'm not just talking about from a profitability standpoint, I'm talking about from the position of getting to interact with families and being more of a resource for the mission that I've set out to achieve. And since mine is one of many, one of the reasons why I even support children's book authors in their publishing and in their marketing is because I'm not going to write a lot of books about a lot of the things that other people are going to write books about. So for me, being able to help you do the thing that I've done and the thing that it is you say you want to do is an extension of my ability to have an impact. I don't have to write dozens and dozens of books. I say this all the time, and I don't say this with any holdback. I don't plan on writing dozens and dozens of children's books, but I know people who want to. And I know that if you're one of those people, if I can help you do that, I indirectly have a way of pouring into some family in a significant enough way where I don't have to write that story because you are. So that's the whole skinny behind crowdfunding. Yes, there are bits and pieces, like how do you come up with the budget? How do you come up with the video? All of that stuff. That's not what the focus is of this video. I'll have to teach that inside of the lab. So if you want to get inside of the lab, go to school and look for Children's Book Marketing Lab. Everything related to me has children's book marketing something on it. And so if you want to understand more about the things that I share, check me out on the podcast. Subscribe here, of course. That's always helpful. And if you want to share this with somebody, please do. Somebody that you've talked to who says, I want to write a children's book, but I don't know where to start. Or I want to write a children's book. I have it almost done and I just need the marketing. That is what I hear more than anything, people saying, I just need the marketing. I'm like, can we not minimize the marketing? Because the marketing is the part of this that is the ongoing. The publishing piece is the one time. If you decide to publish more than one book, then it's however many times you chose to publish a book. But the systematic way of publishing a book doesn't change. The marketing, however, is, what's the word? It can be fluid. It's based on what's most effective. It's what helps you get in front of readers consistently. And if you only leave it to your friends and family to support you because they know you and they like you and they trust you, you are missing an ocean of people who are waiting on books like yours. So share this with somebody who said, I have this in my heart that I want to do, and I will make it happen. So I'm going to go because the little guy is halfway up, halfway not. I need to get up in here to Sprouts. And because it is such a beautiful day, we're going to go to the Christkindl Market in Lawrenceville, which I cannot wait to get to. I want some hot chocolate. Can you believe I'm standing out here with just a sweater? I'm one of those people that's always cold too. So that I can stand outside with no sweater, with no coat. And it's a beautiful, breezy, sunny Saturday afternoon. Means this is the day that we're supposed to go to the Christkindl Market, because I would otherwise like to go to one of those Christmas villages that's a little bit further away. And so that we don't have this day go to waste, that we left the house and we thought we had drum lessons, but apparently we don't. We're just going to stay in Gwinnett, which is the county that I live in. And we're just going to do what we need to do. So I need to run into Sprouts real quick and get him together. But I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, make sure you subscribe to the Children's Book Marketing TV channel. And if I can help, I shouldn't say if, when I can help, reach out. I'm a real person. And aside from me being the voice on the podcast, I am also a children's book author. So I'm in the trenches doing exactly what I teach you how to do on a regular basis. So with that, thanks for tuning in live. Thanks for joining me. I don't know how to turn this thing off. Let's see. What's the button? I don't know how to do it. Maybe you just click X. Oh yeah, this is my first time going live on YouTube as well. So there's that. How do you stop it? I don't know how you stop it. But I'm going to go ahead and press X and see if that lets us go without losing all of this. And if it saves, I hope it does. Maybe this can bless somebody else in the future. And, oh, yeah, I guess that's a different button I didn't recognize. Choose a sticker. No, I'm not going to do a sticker. I don't know how to do it. So I'm going to just press X. Thanks for joining me on this Saturday afternoon. Talk soon. Bye for now. Oh, there's the button.